All right, hello again. Welcome to UNISA here in Pretoria. And of course, we're still continuing to take stock of what the president has described as a historic platform. Day 2 of the National Convention. Technically well underway. The official program meant to kick off at 9 o'clock. I'm Ayanda Ngati, and we'll continue with our special broadcast as we take stock of day 1 off to a rocky start, and of course with day 2 kicking off today. I imagine that people who are here are feeling slightly more experienced than we were, given the skepticism that hovered over this gathering over the past even 24 hours. There's still a few people who are arriving. In fact, we'll show you some of the pictures that we've been able to bring together for you of the arrivals just a short while ago. Delegates who are going to add their voices to the ongoing discussions that are taking place here. Yesterday, the delegates were split into what are called dialogue labs, and these are discussions that were demarcated according to 9 themes that range from economics to issues to do with poverty, corruption, and the list really goes on and on. All of these themes centered around South Africa's developmental agenda. And I imagine what's going to take place today is a consolidation of those sentiments involving the delegates that you're seeing arriving this morning, including, once again, you can see the Mpumalanga Premier in Mandla Ndlovu. We were able to spot Gwendra Mogopa earlier on, senior leader of the ANC. Today, the objective, though, is to put together this task team that is going to breathe life into what happens next. And, you know, in many respects, I think there are still many questions about what is going to unfold, given the fact that, of course, the national dialogue, its structure, its timelines, and its costs are still largely undetermined. So, once again, the SABC News Channel is watching those developments for you throughout the course of the next couple of hours as we mark in or usher in day 2 of this event. And we might as well just jump into, I suppose, taking stock of some of those sentiments and bring in our first guest for the morning. Joining us now, this is the room that we're showing to you where a lot of yesterday's proceedings unfolded. The president delivering a keynote address that I think was highly anticipated given how the day started. If you actually missed that and you haven't been able to follow through, just after the program had started, a delegate inside that room collapsed, and moments after there were disruptions on stage with some of the delegates saying that in fact they feel excluded from the discussions that are meant to unfold. I mentioned Gwendra Mogopa earlier on. There she is, already having had taken her seat. I think that's the Eastern Cape Premier, Oscar Mabuyane, sitting next to Electricity Minister Dr. Hossein Mogopa. Both of them were also here yesterday. I don't think the president is going to arrive, but his deputy in Paul Mashatile, we understand, is likely to walk through these doors at any moment now. That's Hanif Hendricks at the top left-hand side, the leader of Al Jamaa, which we know of is also part, of course, of the government of national unity. So as you can see, plenty of these officials, those known and perhaps those who are less popular, already seated, waiting for this program, which is meant to start at 9 o'clock to kick off. I must be honest, the room is emptier than I think we would have expected. But let's see how things unfold. If day 1 is anything to go by, we are expecting the unexpected. Religious leaders also, of course, present here, and that is, of course, the sector that has its role in South Africa's democracy. You cannot overstate that. David Makhura, former Premier of Gauteng, senior leader of the ANC, also present. All right, sitting next to me, though, is Monica Woodhouse. She's with the South African National Children's Coalition. In fact, she's the chairperson and founder of that. I hope I got that right, Monica. It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Ayanda.
You were part of those discussions that took place yesterday. Let's just start off by placing your organization and the work you do before we kind of take stock of what you've made of day 1 of this convention.
Yeah. Well, we're a group of 135 organizations that are fighting for the rights of children. And just yesterday, I had to struggle to find a theme where I would fit in, because it's a cross-cutting factor and there was no space for children and families in this dialogue. So I had to fit in somewhere because I had obviously a theme that I had to go to. But so it's concerning that the dialogue is there, but it's excluding children and families.
structure of that's so important. I mean, we're told that this is meant to be a framework for the dialogue itself. And I think I mentioned to you off air that we're still building this plane as we fly it. Nobody really knows what the dialogue is going to actually pan out to be like. But this is like the planning phase, we're told. And insofar as that is concerned, I mean, help me gauge your level of confidence about whether we're even off to a good start.
Well, we have to be here because it's important for our voices. It's important. We also need to actually have the voices of children and youth. They need to be represented as well, because we talk about it takes a village to grow a child, but what if the village is broken? And that is what it is. And I don't even know if the people who are running this, maybe on the government level, actually understand how broken the village is. And we need to envision, and we need to bring those conversations into the village to really bring hope again back to the families and the children in the communities.
Yeah, I'm going to latch on to what you've just mentioned about how you feel this space doesn't cater for families, including children. Often when we speak about children, the adults presume that children's voices should not be part of those conversations. And I imagine that's perhaps our first mistake.
Absolutely. They are the most important because they're our future. They tomorrow, they today. And we're going to lose another generation if we don't start including them in our conversations and in all our deliberations. We have to include children, and we have to include their voices and the families, because if you have a strong family, you'll have a strong child. And if you have and that's why we're sitting with the challenges that we're sitting with in our, you can just open, as you know, with TV, I think every news bulletin has something about child abuse or children and children or trust of children being broken. I saw that just now even. And we have to start making children our priority in South Africa.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, Monica, I mean, you're right. I have sat in this chair and for weeks now read the most harrowing stories about the plight of children. And I think it's, without overstating it or perhaps fear-mongering, I think it's fair to say it's a really difficult time to be a child in South Africa, especially when you consider how many of these stories involve individuals who are actually meant to be safeguarding the interests of children, and those are the alleged perpetrators in most instances.
I mean, we training children to protect themselves. That's not their role. Their role is for adults to protect them. But we have to teach them how to protect themselves, so that they can, so they don't become victims. And this is urgent, Ayanda. This is really urgent, and I would want to make this an urgent appeal at this national dialogue that we have to consider children and families if we're going to build a healthy South Africa.
It's an interesting take. Thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Really do appreciate it. Monica Woodhouse is with the South African National Children's Coalition, and she, of course, is among the many voices that are represented here who are hoping at the very least that this process will be worth its time and the money that we're told is likely to be spent, given just how much has been said about that throughout the past couple of weeks in the lead up to this very moment. And even just yesterday, by the way, the president in his keynote address coming out to say that as soon as he heard that there was a 740 million rand price tag attached to this, he knew that he cannot allow that to happen. What is still unanswered largely is how much though all of this will cost, even though we know that in fact it won't be 740 million rand, at least if the president's sentiments are anything to go by. But that notwithstanding, there is so much being said about even just how yesterday has unfolded insofar as the logistics are concerned. Yes, these dialogue labs technically went ahead, but many of the people who were involved, I suppose, had questions about whether the people chairing the dialogues had an idea of the role they had to play. And Monica, since you're still next to me, let me take this chance to throw that back to you as well. What was your sense sitting in these breakaway sessions about just how organized they were and whether or not the people who were entrusted with leading those discussions, in fact, knew what they had to do?
It seemed like not. People didn't know where to go. People didn't know, and then didn't even know in the group what they should do and all that. So even the facilitation of it was a challenge. And so unless, and these are important issues if you're going to facilitate this, you have to actually train your facilitators to do it effectively. And so I think that there's a lot of work background work that needs to be done. We don't even know going forward what are these conversations going to look like. They're saying go back to your village, go back to your churches, talk. What do we don't have the script. I know what to say because I feel so strongly about children and families and growing and bringing hope into hopeless situations. But for people who don't know that and have to just kind of work off a script, what would they do?
Gosh, fair enough. Monica, once again, thanks very much indeed. I'm really letting you go now, so thank you. That, once again, is Monica Woodhouse with the South African National Children's Coalition. All right, so the SABC News team, as you can see, is watching the story from a number of vantage points. What's taking place inside? That seems to be some word from one of the representatives of the different sectors that are here. We'll take you there in just a moment. In fact, I'm told it's a prayer session that's taking place, marking, I imagine, the start of the official program. Interfaith prayers, as we've become accustomed in this multi-sectoral society of ours.